everyone. Welcome back to Mandarin Pod for Children. I'm Grace, and today we're diving into a super important topic: what to do when your child isn't interested in learning Mandarin, at least not at first. If you've ever faced resistance, boredom, or total disinterest from your little one, today's episode is for you. We'll be talking about 3 real turning points that helped one child go from totally unmotivated to absolutely loving the language. To walk us through this story, I'm joined by Bruce, a dad living in Canada with a 6-year-old daughter, Sophie. Sophie's been learning Mandarin for about 2 years now, but it hasn't always been smooth sailing. In fact, Bruce, I remember you once told me, if someone had told me 2 years ago that Sophie would one day ask for more Mandarin cartoons, I would have laughed.
Hi Grace, thanks for having me. And yes, that's a very accurate quote. Sophie's journey has been full of ups and downs. When we first started, I honestly thought we might give up after a few months.
Let's go back to the beginning. Why did you want Sophie to learn Mandarin in the first place?
Great question. I'm not Chinese myself, and my wife only speaks basic Mandarin. But we really believe in raising a globally minded child. Mandarin felt like a gift we could give her, something useful for her future, something culturally rich. So we started her at age 4, thinking she'd just pick it up naturally.
And did she?
Absolutely not. At first, she hated it. The classes felt long. The tones were hard. She didn't see the point. It was a battle just to get her to sit through a 20-minute lesson.
So what changed? You've mentioned 3 turning points that made all the difference. Let's walk through them.
Sure. The first turning point was when we realized that she needed to feel competent, not just exposed. We were throwing songs and cartoons at her, hoping she'd absorb it, but it turns out she needed to feel a little success first.
How did you create that sense of success?
We stopped trying to cover so much material and focused on just a few high-frequency phrases. We used them at home every day. Like, instead of saying brush your teeth, we'd say it in Mandarin. Just one phrase. And when she used it correctly, wow, the pride on her face. It made her feel capable, like she could do this.
That's such a practical and powerful tip. Less is more, especially when it builds confidence.
Exactly. Once she saw that she could understand and use something, she wanted to do more. We started building little routines around that: snack time, bedtime, greetings. And each time she succeeded, it chipped away at her resistance.
What was the second turning point?
The second shift came from changing who she was learning from. We had a lovely online teacher, but there was no personal connection. Then, by chance, we met a Mandarin-speaking babysitter who was just incredibly warm and playful. They built a real relationship. They baked cookies together, played pretend, and slowly Mandarin became the language of play, not just the language of homework.
That's huge. Kids learn best when emotions are involved, especially joy.
Yes. Suddenly Mandarin wasn't this foreign school thing. It was what you spoke when you were pretending to be a doctor or playing Tea Party. She started asking how to say things because she wanted to keep the game going. And the babysitter would sneak in new words during play. So natural, no pressure.
What advice would you give parents who don't have access to a Mandarin-speaking caregiver?
Great question. I'd say, look for personality, not just qualifications. Even if it's just a weekly session online, try to find someone who gets kids, who sings with them, plays games, laughs. And if you don't have a live teacher, you can still use Mandarin during play. Use stuffed animals. Make it silly. Even you, as a non-native parent, can say a few phrases and build that playful association.
Love that. So what was the third big shift?
The third turning point was letting Sophie choose her own content. One day, I showed her a Mandarin cartoon with a strong female character who looked like her, curly hair and all. She was hooked. Suddenly, she wanted to know what the characters were saying. That curiosity came from her, not from us pushing.
Do you remember what show it was?
It was actually a Taiwanese animated series on YouTube. I didn't even know if it was appropriate at first, but it had adventure, humor, and no English subtitles, so Sophie had to listen. At first she just watched for the visuals, but over time she started catching words, then phrases.
So what started as passive exposure became active learning?
Yes, and we used subtitles later to build on that. I'd ask her, hey, what do you think that word meant, or did you hear them say friend? We'd rewatch funny scenes and pause them. It became something we shared.
That's such a beautiful progression from resistance to curiosity, from curiosity to joy.
And none of it was fast. That's important to say. These turning points didn't happen overnight, but once we hit them, everything changed.
So if a parent listening today is at that "my child hates Mandarin" stage, what would you tell them?
First, don't panic. Disinterest is not failure. It's just part of the process. Second, zoom in. Instead of focusing on how many characters they know, ask, are they enjoying anything about this? Can I create one tiny success? One warm moment?
And
Finally, stick with it but flex your methods. What works at age 4 might not work at age 6. Be open to evolving. And don't forget, your attitude matters more than your accent. If you treat Mandarin as something special, joyful, and valuable, your child will feel that.
Thank you so much for sharing this, Bruce. I think many parents will breathe easier after hearing your story.
Thanks for having me. And to all the parents out there, hang in there. You're planting seeds that may take a while to grow, but when they do, the results can really surprise you.
Beautifully said. Before we wrap up, here are a few actionable tips you can try at home. 1. Create a success moment every day. So, use one Mandarin phrase during a routine moment, like saying "let's eat" or "good night." Repeat it daily until it sticks. 2. Link Mandarin to joy, whether it's playtime, cooking, or cartoons. Let Mandarin be part of the fun, not just the lesson. 3. Give kids agency. Let them pick a cartoon, a game, or a song even if they don't understand it all. The interest has to come from them too. 4. Celebrate progress, not perfection. Cheer when they use a new word even if it's messy. That confidence is the fuel for the next step. 5. Reflect regularly. Ask yourself and your child what's working. What's fun? What feels hard? Learning is dynamic. Check in often. That's it for today's episode of Mandarin Pod for Children. If you found today's story helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow parent who might be struggling. You're not alone, and your efforts are making a difference. I'm Grace, and I'll see you next time. DM me to get a free online 1-to-1 Mandarin lesson plus a free Chinese-themed gift delivered to your doorstep.